It's 23 minutes before 9 here on this Monday morning. You're watching Morning Live. It's fantastic to have you with us on Channel 404 on SABC News. When we visited Abuja, I tell you one thing, when we were in Nigeria, one of the nicest parts of our trip was being in the comfort and I suppose security of our correspondent there. And that, of course, is Sophia Adengo, who does such sterling work with a team there in Nigeria. And they really looked after us there and ensured that the broadcast went off as smoothly as it did. And this is our pleasure this morning to talk to her again, but unfortunately not about some good news, but some rather bad news once again. Last week, we were horrified to hear that two female suicide bombers aged only 17 and 20 blew themselves up at a camp in northeastern Nigeria, killing 58 people. The camp was set up to shelter people from terrorism. The occurrences of Boko Haram attacks have become too numerous in the region that people are living in daily fear. Well, to unpack all of this for us is our Nigerian correspondent, Sophia Adengo. Sophia, so lovely to see you once again. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Leanne.
Sophia, from what I understand, there were initially 3 suicide bombers, but the third girl actually managed to escape and run away. She's now in custody and is warning of more bombings. What is going on?
Well, Leanne, as you know, military authorities confirming those suicide attacks in an internally displaced camp known as Dikwa. Now, 55,000 people have called Dikwa home, at least in the last year. And this internally displaced camp actually serves about 5 local government areas in the northeastern part of Borno State, in which a lot of residents have found solace in this internally displaced camp. Eyewitnesses say that these 3 young female suicide bombers infiltrated this camp on the 8th, which is a Monday. Of the 3, 2 girls then subsequently on Tuesday were in a queue to receive their daily rations in the morning hours of the 9th, and went ahead and detonated 2 bombs. It's interesting, the third female suicide bomber recognized her family within the camp and was able to, de-escalate, I suppose, her anxiety, and was quickly turned over to authorities and is now in custody. Now, the National Management Authority is really just calming the current residents who are in the camp at the moment, taking the injured to hospital in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno, and also attending to, taking the dead from the camp and, accounting for the lives that have been lost. The interesting point to make here is that ideally these camps are well guarded, obviously have military presence all over them. There's a constant understanding that perhaps maybe these women were able to evade, these military checkpoints based on the traditional dress that is, part of the Muslim wear, which is this burqa, in which doubles not only as modest wear, but also to be able to shield IEDs and bombs that are strapped to these young women's bodies. Leanne.
I mean, you mention young women. I mean, they really, really are young. And from recent incidents, it seems that Boko Haram is using unassuming females to carry out some of their bidding. Is this the assumptions that you're seeing as well?
Well, at the moment, there have not been any open claims by Boko Haram that this attack is linked to their brand of extremism, although the third young suspect that was apprehended by the authorities is said to have come out and said that indeed it was Boko Haram who had sent them within the camp, and that other female suicide bombers would follow as a result. It has been typically, Boko Haram style to use young women, indoctrinate them, and then turn them into these, I suppose, walking, detonators. It's not become uncommon where both women and men have been used in these acts of violence by Boko Haram. Leanne.
I mean, that's the reality. I mean, what we hear is that they're kidnapped, they're psychologically traumatized by rapes and beatings. You know, from reports, and perhaps maybe from this young girl that's speaking out, what is it like for men or women to be captured by Boko Haram?
Well, on a general level, what we have seen here in Nigeria is once a village is raided, especially in these vulnerable areas of the northeast, the men are marched without their consent to join the ranks of Boko Haram. And the women are also taken for various reasons. One, it has been said to be forcefully married to these members of Boko Haram. And when these communities are rescued, or when the military goes in to take back these communities and releases these potential captives, what they find ideally is many of the young women are pregnant or expecting. And the eyewitnesses often say that Boko Haram uses these women to be able to birth a generation that will follow through on Boko Haram ideology. So as much as there are men who are being targeted in terms of frontline troops and war against the Nigerian military in this so-called Islamic caliphate that Boko Haram has propagated, the women are also as equally vulnerable, used not only as targets of war, but also, all manner of abuse, including sexual abuse, in which many of these women now become hosts of children who belong to, ideally, the members of Boko Haram. Leanne.
What are their intentions? What do they actually want out of this? I mean, we know that Boko Haram actually stands for Western education is forbidden. I mean, if my understanding is correct. But what is it that they really want?
Well, according to the watchdog sites that follow these terrorist groups, fundamentally what Boko Haram in their core ideology is trying to do is to follow through on Sharia law, which is an extreme version of Islam in which there is no focus necessarily on a centralized government, but the people of Nigeria, just pay attention to Islamic teachings and Islamic way of life, really just taking on Islam as the central religion, and everything else falls by the wayside. What makes Boko Haram extremist or dangerous is their direct allegiance to what we now know as ISIL. And they have morphed into this terror organization that is recognized all over the world as one of the deadliest. In other words, the acts of violence that we have seen systematically all over this country, and these surprise attacks in which mosques are targeted, churches are targeted, it seems to leave the question, is this really an ideology based on Islam and the spread of Islam, or is it really just a terror, violent terror organization that targets indiscriminately? Leanne.
All right, Sophia, let's leave it there for this morning. But thank you so very, very much for talking to us here on the program. And this is something that we certainly are following closely with our Nigerian correspondent there, Sophia Adengo, who's in Abuja. All right, now I'd like to